Hello, welcome to What the Flick. My name is Christy. That is Alonzo. That is Ben. We all saw The Accountant. Ben Affleck, he can do math. He can kill people. What can't he do?
Yeah, so describing this movie, we'll get into it when we get into the review, but the movie's big problem was when the movie tries to explain itself. It would have been far better just not even endeavoring to do so. So Ben Affleck is a suburban Chicago accountant, and he's clearly on the spectrum. But it turns out there is much more to Ben Affleck. In addition to being an accounting savant, he has very special James Bond plus-like skills, probably just like your accountant. And the movie is sort of the unraveling of, I suppose, how he got to be an accountant with these skills. And in the meantime, he has to protect. Just here.
Your son is a remarkable young man. It wouldn't surprise me if he has more in common with Einstein, Mozart, and Picasso than he does with us. He has highly advanced cognitive skills. The obsessive personality.
Can our son lead a normal life?
Define normal.
Yeah, this is an origin story for sure.
Right, that's right. No, and I mean,
I called it H&R Block Begins in my head.
Funny. I don't mean to be so dismissive of it, but you could get, obviously, I could have gone on for another 45 seconds and all you guys would have been begging me to stop. He's got to protect Anna Kendrick.
Right.
She comes into it and he's obviously closed off as he's got Asperger's. I think they actually...
They say autism, but somebody I was talking to who has an autistic child said this sounds more like Asperger's in that he is able to at some point interact with the world and be active and stuff. But that's what the movie says autistic, I don't know.
He describes himself as a highly functioning autistic.
Yes, but there's a moment when the name of one of the people Lewis Carroll, Lewis Carroll was described in the movie as having Asperger's, so that's why I associated him.
The weird thing, though, is the movie doesn't say the word autistic for like an hour.
It doesn't.
And so it sort of hangs over the whole film where you're thinking, are we talking around it? It becomes this weird elephant in the room, whereas if they had just unleashed it earlier, we could have moved on. But I just kept sitting there going, is no one going to talk about what's happening here?
I actually sort of thought that was interesting because much of the movie some of the movie, a bit of the movie takes place in flashback in 1989,
right,
when he's a young child with his parents who are critical to the story, how each of his parents deals with his behavior stemming from the way he is. That's a critical part of the movie, and I don't know whether in 1989 we had people throwing around that word. So I'm guessing part of it was that they didn't have. I'm sure the term autistic obviously existed then, but that they may have been hesitant to talk about it. Whereas then when we see kids in modern day in the movie, they're easily talking about.
I thought that exact same thing.
Okay,
because they're at a place where they're just starting to begin to study this and try to get these kids
in a meaningful way,
and try to get these kids like a life that they can.
I'll buy that.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So when I was watching it, I'm like, okay, I get it. It's John Nash meets Jason Bourne, right? And that's
I thought you said John Wick, but yeah, John Nash,
right? Because he can do math, and there is a whole kind of thing like A Beautiful Mind where there are entire windows
numbers
covered
on
with
the board,
equations, and he's just in the midst of them. He's crazed. I liked this for a while. It's nutty and it's silly, and then it gets too greedy, and I got pissed. There's like a twist or two where I'm like, no. That's one twist too far.
I found it so shameless that I just had fun with it. And there was one twist where I kicked myself for not getting it. I was like, oh, movie, you got me. I should have seen that one coming a mile away. But yeah, no, it's just like, okay, yeah, fine. He is a mathematical savant who is also like a deadly ninja and a crack shot. Sure, movie, why not?
But I will say, as silly and goofy as this movie is, they do a really nice job with flashbacks of explaining how he got that way and how his dad made him that way.
Okay,
so I think that makes sense if you want to go with it.
Literally the worst explanation I've seen in any movie ever. And so that moment, there's a moment in the movie where J.K. Simmons tells you the whole story. And first of all, just take it out. Not necessary.
Yeah, it's kind of extraneous.
Because, I was begging for one of you two guys to be sitting next to me because I'm like, at one point they're like, and I'm making it up, but it was something like, and it turned out it was her cousin. And I was like, her cousin? I think they mean his cousin. Like, who's she? What are they talking about? And it's so long and it's so pointless.
Yeah, there's a whole subplot about J.K. Simmons is the head of the Fed who blackmails an agent to go after him just so that they can tell us information that we need to know.
So she can find out who he is, but I think J.K. Simmons already knew who he was. Like, I don't even know what the point was. Why did he
He's
it's
testing
too
her?
much. It's
He's
too much.
testing her,
It was
right?
so it was just
Isn't it
the
a
test? Yeah, it was a test, but it was just the test.
It's a really elaborate test.
So
a lot of people
I don't-
died in that test.
But so that's about like an hour 17 into the movie, more or less. And I'm like, and I totally dug it up till that point because it's winking just the right amount at he's a savant accountant who's also a ninja and a crack shot. Like they have some moments where people react to it like, did you see our accountant just shoot from a mile away and hit the, so I was into it too. I'm like, okay, great. This is who he is. And Affleck is really good at it, right? And then and the way he sort of falls for but doesn't know how to fall for Anna Kendrick, all that stuff worked. And then they explained it, but the explanation ended up being so dumb and so unnecessary that it came back around. Like if it had been only 80% that done, I'd have been dumb. I was irritated, but I was like, oh, what, are you kidding me? And I was like, all right, I am literally ignoring that. That didn't happen.
That's part of the movie, we don't care.
Yeah, no, sometimes a movie, it gets so stupid, you're like, all right, well, at least you're all in.
Right.
Like, at least you're not pretending that there's a shred of, like, artistic anything here. Like, you're just going to go for the gusto and, all right, fine, do it.
I do think, so Gavin O'Connor directed this, I do think he has some artistic whatever. I do. Or at least,
no,
but I mean, like, I think he needs to be saying something, perhaps beyond just like the cheesy popcorn element of ninja accountant.
Well, like
I think
like
he needs
Warrior,
to be saying something.
like Warrior, it is a movie about a father who pushes violence on his two sons to cope with the world.
It's a really good cast, we should mention. So John Lithgow is the head of this high-tech prosthesis company.
Robotics.
Robotics company that Ben Affleck has been asked to investigate.
Jean Smart is his sister.
John Bernthal. We should talk about
John
John Bernthal, who was
Bernthal.
great in everything, and he is on a parallel track trying to find ninja accountant.
He's a brutal, horrible mercenary.
Mercenary / bodyguard.
But he brings a lot of like whereas Ben Affleck's performance is really dialed down, you can see like he did this and Batman kind of at the same time. It's sort of in the same vein there. But John Bernthal brings like swagger and bravado, and he's funny, like darkly funny and kind of mean, but kind of sexy too.
Anna Kendrick is a fun foil for Affleck's character. I enjoyed her. The character is bizarrely written, but she's given it her all.
Yeah, and it's a really good cast. And it's just nutty.
She has some great lines. Bernthal has some really great moments when he's like, sort of almost torturing someone, certainly psychologically, and then instantly apologizes for everything he just said. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. It just came out of my mouth.
And he's really good in it. So, I mean, what are your numbers now? Let's do numbers. Let's talk about the tomato meter because it's low.
I gave it a 7.1. I mean, it was headed for 8'ville, but it's still totally fun. And the end, which involves some twists that are too stupid to even consider. But again, but the scene after the reveal is totally amusing. So you're like, well, this was dumb, but that's funny. So I gave it a 7.1.
I gave it a 7. I was never not entertained.
That's right. I was never not entertained, even when I was outraged.
Yes, exactly. That's it.
I need to bring my number up a little bit, I think, because I think I enjoyed our conversation of this enough to make me realize that I enjoyed this movie more.
You never pull your number up. It's a big moment. I like it.
So I'll say 7 for the sake of math. So Ben Affleck could do much harder math than this on a dime. So our average is a 7. And it's at 42%, people. Do not let this dissuade you. It is heady Oscar season. We're coming into serious movies. This is fun and nutty.
Last thing I will say, but the moment where Anna Kendrick gets turned on when he does an incredibly difficult math problem in one is so sweet and so wonderful. She's like Swallows when he's like 282,842 times 917,000.
All right, so we think you should see this.
Yeah, go see it.
Yeah, it's empty calories. Enjoy.